Hey, everybody, Dr. Grant here. And today we are going to be talking about how basically the best supplements to eliminate ADHD burnout. And over the past 10 years, working with people with ADHD, especially adults with ADHD, it has come down to four areas that have to be addressed as far as when we're looking for supplements with ADHD burnout. So, the four areas that I have seen that are a big issue is one, roughly, actually, let me make that a little bit smaller, is that GABA, so this is GABA, is about 38% of the people that we've tested have issues with GABA. Then the next one is dopamine. So dopamine is another big one. And about 48% of the people that we've tested had issues with dopamine with their ADHD burnout. And then the next big one, which was roughly about 66% of the people that we have tested, was serotonin. So 66% of the people that we have tested over the years, serotonin was a big issue. And the biggest one, so the fourth one that needs to be addressed, 92% of the people had this issue that we tested, and that was cortisol. Which makes a lot of sense because cortisol has everything to do with energy, and so that can definitely impact your ADHD burnout state. So today I'm going to go over which supplements we need to address for all four of these areas. Okay. So first, what I'm going to do is also give you case studies of how this all comes together. And sometimes, you might have issues in all four, or maybe one or two, or just one area. So I did my best to kind of put together case studies um, representing each one of these. So let me know in the chat if this is you. So case scenario number one, this is a patient, this is a very common patient that I will typically see where they are completely burnt out. Medications have worked for you, but still feel stressed. You still feel overwhelmed and feel like something is lacking. Let me know in the chat if you are scenario number one. So in this case, typically what we will see is just like with this patient, there's a couple areas that typically will be deficient. One is going to be an excitatory neurotransmitter known as phenylethylamine. Also, tyramine and tyrosine levels will be low. Dopamine levels will be still low. So the medications are targeting the right thing, targeting dopamine, but still just not enough. So that's why it just feels like there's something just still lacking. There's something that still needs different supportive supplementation to support what is being lacked. The things like norepinephrine were low, glutamate, taurine, GABA levels were low. So even GABA needed to be addressed in this situation. So supplements to use are going to be the things that help, for one, help with dopamine. And what are those areas? It's going to be tyrosine. It's also going to be D-L-phenylalanine. So both of these are going to help make dopamine. Also, things that have mucuna in it. Dopa Boost has both, tyrosine as well as D-L-phenylalanine in it, and also has mucuna in it. So that can help with dopamine because of the L-Dopa that helps make dopamine. Now, with their GABA levels being low, there's a few things that typically that we can address. One, you could use L-theanine. L-theanine both helps with both dopamine and also GABA being low. But also, even just supplementing, I don't know, I forgot to put it here, but even just supplementing directly GABA are going to help with improving GABA levels. Now, one additional thing that also does support this whole process is typically you're going to be a lot of your B vitamins. So B vitamins are critical because they are cofactors for helping making dopamine and even GABA. So definitely don't want to miss if that is something that's deficient that needs to be addressed. Okay. So usually, with this patient, once we addressed all those things, we found the gaps, we implemented that, made a big difference. They weren't feeling super burnt out. They felt like, along with the support treatment, their medication was become more effective. And then they were able to titrate off the medication and just have more energy, better mood, and just be more focused and not so burnt out. Okay. Now, let me know in the chat if you are scenario number two. So, scenario number two is your medications actually have not been working, right, for you, and you feel more stressed and tired. So let me know in the chat because that's how it was with this patient and many patients that I do work with. And in this case, typically what's going on is it's kind of the opposite, not just kind of, quite a bit, is that things are elevated. So you could see right here, like dopamine is elevated. We also see that serotonin is elevated. So he's dealing with serotonin syndrome, which makes you feel more agitated, stressed, tired. You can even deal with heart palpitations, issues like that. And also, GABA levels are elevated. So in this situation, our supplement strategy has to change a bit, and what we need to target to deal with the ADHD burnout. So in this situation, I also typically will want to test maybe further to look at, okay, what are some other things that might be contributing to the high stress and feeling tired too? And that I'll usually want to run typically using cortisol. And so you can see their cortisol levels were spiked, which that does impact stress. It does impact sleep, which he also had sleep issues as well. But also the cortisol levels were really low in the morning. So there's two things that we have to address here. One, using adrenal desiccated just first thing in the morning, and then ashwagandha to lower things in the early evening where it was spiked. Okay. Now, on the other hand, when it comes to the neurotransmitters, typically rhodiola is a great one that's going to help lower both the dopamine, the GABA, as well as the serotonin that was elevated. But also L-theanine is a great one because even though it can help improve, but it also can help decrease, it's a great neutralizer. And that's why I usually like that in that case. And then B vitamins are always going to be something because sometimes it's this process right here where why dopamine or serotonin and GABA are elevated is because there's certain B vitamins that help break down those different neurotransmitters. So there's also things that help build it, but they also help break down. And you need to break it down. You don't want it constantly in your system. It needs to be built, utilized, and then modulated and breaking down so that you have this consistent cycle. You don't want to be building up over time, right? So those are things that are usually typically are going to be good for that. And with this patient, once we implemented that, didn't feel stressed, didn't feel tired, didn't have to eventually, realize that the medication was just making things worse. So we started to titrate that off and get to a point where he was just using the supportive treatment. And that made a huge difference for him. Now, scenario number 3 is a little bit different here too as well. So let me know if you are in the chat, if you're scenario number 3. So with your ADHD burnout, your medications also have not worked, but the thing that's different here is you're having something that's feel more depressed along with feeling tired as well as stressed. So let me know if that's you in the chat because again, this is very common amongst people with ADHD, especially if you're dealing with ADHD burnout. So the supplementation that we have to target here is what's usually going on is serotonin levels are low, but a lot of times, especially if it's like depressed and stressed and tired, usually it's like all over the place. There's going to be things that are elevated, just like in this patient right here. Even dopamine levels are still elevated, GABA levels are still elevated, but serotonin levels are low, right? So usually we have to kind of target different things in order to balance everything. So these cases are a little bit more complicated, and that's why testing is so vital to help us really kind of see what's truly, really going on. So when it comes to supplements, we want to target serotonin, the low serotonin. So usually we'll do that with 5-HTP and L-tryptophan because both of those are what help make serotonin. Okay. But at the same time, we also do need to address certain things of why maybe serotonin's not being built. And that's usually a lot of cases is going to be vitamin D. So she had low vitamin D levels, explains a lot for her tiredness and also feeling more depressed. So using vitamin D can help with the serotonin. But then we still have to deal with the elevated things like the GABA, the serotonin, sorry, the GABA and the dopamine levels being elevated. And so that's why I usually like using L-theanine. I'll use rhodiola is another one, like I mentioned. So that's usually going to be part of your stack when we do see that. But I also like to do further investigation. Now, there's lots of things that we can test for. And so I'm just showing the ones that typically I will see, but sometimes we do a lot more extensive testing if we need to. But I do usually like to check for cortisol levels if someone feels very depressed and stressed and tired at the same time. And so sure enough, her levels were really low. And so we definitely want to implement adrenal desiccated first thing in the morning and mid-afternoon to help improve not only the cortisol levels, but help improve energy, help improve stress. And so that way she's able to be function more. So once that was all implemented, made a big difference. But also, I wanted to do a little bit more further investigative work, especially for women. Usually, we want to look at different hormones. And sure enough, her progesterone levels were low, her DHEA levels were low, which definitely impact mood. It definitely impacts the depression. And so, once we implemented some natural progesterone cream, helped improve by supplementing DHEA, that also improved the level, her mood overall. So, just by implementing that, that made a big difference. She didn't feel so stressed. She didn't feel as depressed. She was able to have just more of a clear head and not feel so tired. And because we were able to target the right specific things that were in balance for her. So I get this is a lot of information, a lot to digest as far as okay, which supplements do I need to take? These are just like the common ones that we do see. But out of those four areas, like is it GABA, is it serotonin, is it dopamine, or is it cortisol? Which one? And then there could be several other things that need to be tested to see why you have those imbalances. And so, if you would like my help to like order these labs to identify the root cause of your HD burnout, I'd love to help you out. All you got to do is just click on the link in the description below to book a ADHD focused diagnostic assessment with me. This is a 45-minute assessment where I just dive deep into your medical history to understand the ins and outs of your challenges, but also to create a roadmap of what labs we need to implement to execute on finding the root causes to your ADHD burnout. So if you like my help on that, again, that's in the description below that you click on there. And then, yeah, just click there and then it'll take you to a page to book. But hope to help you guys out. If you're interested, you know where to go. So thank you guys so much for attending the live stream. Hopefully this is helpful for you. Let me know in the chat. Otherwise, I'll see you guys on the next live stream. Thanks. Bye.